Hello. Hey, sweetie, yeah, you did well. Was that nice eating that? Yeah? Do you love Mama for giving you that? Yeah, she gives you good food. Yes, she does. You good girl, yeah. You're a good girl. Hello, beauty. Hello. So hi guys, welcome to Livestream. If this is your first time on Livestream, then you ask me questions through Skype, which is Lisa Cairns 12. That's Lisa Cairns 12. And if you want to know about my events, my next up and coming event is in the south of Spain. That's for Easter this year, which is the end of March. You're very welcome to join me. That's for a 7-day retreat. And now I think that we should follow the title of the video and just have some silence. If you want to ask me questions, I don't know if I said that, you do through Skype, which is Lisa Cairns 12. And I apologise that it's not going to be that much silence if Khaleesi starts eating her bone. I'll turn off my microphone while we sit in silence. the ideal. So say if you come to this talk, I know it's called a talk, but you come and you listen and you have an expectation of what you want to get. So you have this ideal. Then when you come to this talk, you come into this talk with an expectation. And that's not right or wrong, but that's the reality of it. So there is an ideal, you come into the talk and then you make a judgment as to whether it suits you or doesn't suit you, dependent on your past experiences. And that's 100% okay. Where we become complicated as humans is we're often not aware of what our ideal is or our idol is in each moment. With life, the expectation or the end of the journey of life is death. This is the way we see it as humans. But this is something that we collectively made up. It's not a reality. The body transforms into something else. So that when the body is older or sometimes when it's young, it transforms into another form. But in the human world, we have life, we have death, and we have this time in between. So we address our life with the idea of this death. And we're often unconscious of that death is in our judgments of everything. That death is held with life. There's nothing wrong with that, but what is your idea of death? Because whatever your idea or feeling of what death is, you're holding that in your current experience. So if you have the idea that death is this terrible thing that takes life away from you, that is a destroyer, that is suffering, that makes you disappear, makes you invisible, then you have this future which you're dreading. You have this monster that can potentially come at any moment. If you view death as love, if you view death as merging back with the source, even though you are the source prior to physical death, but you see death as the end of the separate experience and the merging back to the infinite, and then the birth of something new, the birth of a new experience, a new form. If you see it like that, then your experience of life is very different. You no longer are being haunted by this ideal, this unconscious ideal. You're no longer addressing life, afraid of this monster coming out of any corner. In the past, Christianity gave us the idea that death was judgment, which in a way is a very intelligent ideal to put up there. Because what that says to us, or what that unconsciously does to us, is that in this life we have to live to morality. If death is judgment, then it keeps us in line. And because we're these animals that have become conscious, and because we live together as a community, it's wise to have that as an ideal. Because that's going to help us to behave better. It's not psychologically the happiest way or the best way to look at life in terms of happiness and peace, but in terms of controlling people and ruling, it's very intelligent. And then our society tells us what is godly and what isn't. Whereas to me, that's more a judgment about us living together more in harmony, or trying to live together more in harmony. Like not to steal, not to kill, to treat the neighbour like you'd want to be treated. These are, I think, an effect that happens when you don't look at death as something against you, where you look at it as love, as merging back to the infinite and birth. I think that these evil actions happen when you have the idea that death is destruction, is taking away from you, is stealing, is suffering, is disappearing. And I think the idea of judgment at the end was the attempt to try to get humans to live more in accordance with love. But maybe the more sensible way of living in accordance with love was having a better ideal, or a better idol, or a better idea of what life and death is. If we see life as good and death as evil, then that's totally a disbalanced way of looking at life. And most people, I think, do look at that life like that. That they see death as this terrible thing, and they fear it, and they try to suppress it, deny it, and through that, that's when you steal, that's when you treat people badly. So you can see it with every situation, that we go into a situation with a judgment, we go into a situation with an ideal, and then that affects our actual experience. So imagine if you go into a relationship with the ideal that the other one will save you no matter what, then there's a certain pressure on the relationship. There's a certain judgment on the relationship. It means that when the other person doesn't pick saving you or saving others, because you see others as yourself, as the highest ideal, they hurt you, they take something from you. And all of us have these judgments and these ideals. Just becoming more conscious of them, so you don't get stuck in the loops of them. I can have an open overemphasis on honesty from people in a way that can be a weakness in relationships, because I'm incredibly sensitive, and intuitive, I can often feel what people feel quicker than they can consciously recognize it. And I can often have a want for people to recognize what they want in the situation, to recognize their idol in the situation, or to have this honesty in their experience. When they can only be their level of self-awareness, they can only know themselves at that level, and I or anyone else can't push them into a deeper recognition of what's happening. Although maybe it can be helpful for people to be around me, because I do try to push them sometimes. Maybe it's a benefit. The most important thing, though, in any of this human, or beyond any of this human stuff, is the recognition that who you truly are isn't in polarities, isn't in opposites, but is here all the time. It's absolute love. Maybe you can only realize that death is love when that's recognized. And that will change on the human level your experience of life, because then the end of life has a different meaning. Okay, let's take some questions. Hey Isabel. Hi Phyllis. Hi Carmela. Hi Felicia. I love your talks. You often mention the big mystery. I wonder if you've explored this mystery more closely yourself. I'd love to hear you speak about that. Love. The thing about the mystery, which is what all of us are, is that which is experiencing now. And the thing about that mystery is that you can't really think about it. So you can't explore it with your mind. You can't explore it with your thoughts. Like, thoughts are something that appear in the world of opposites. Like, we think this, we think that, and it's something that appears. Imagine thinking about something that's prior to thoughts. Like, imagine trying to think about that which exists before manifestation. You can't think about it. So therefore, exploring it isn't really possible with the human brain. But yet it can be known, but known only by something beyond the human brain. Hi, Lisa. I've been having quite an intense Krishya, spontaneous shaking lately, and today I've had tingling sensations and presumably on my head and my face, and it's scaring the hell out of me. How do you stop these things? I don't know, but I have heard like when you're having lots of Kundalini experiences, that like oily things and starches can help ground you, like oil and bread. Like eating it can help the energy sink more into the body and into the experience. I don't know if that helps though. I'm not an expert on those sorts of things. Hi Laura, hi. Could you speak about acceptance? Well, there's the acceptance on the human level, and then there's the acceptance on the absolute level. And on the absolute level, it's accepting everything without any effort. Its essence is to embrace everything. It can't help but do that. So that which is experiencing now, and that sense of being and existence, is in absolute alignment with what's happening, so it can't reject anything. On the human level, you can accept things or you can reject things. And the more that you understand yourself on the human level, the better that you'll get at accepting and rejecting things that are beneficial and healthy for you as a human. Waking up, though, to the absolute is the most healthy and beneficial thing that can happen to the human, even though it's not the human that does it. But that waking up to seeing that you are the divine beyond the human has a profound effect on the human and changes the human. And then on the human level, you can also understand yourself psychologically, understand what you want, understand your conditioning, understand your relationships with people, understand what you need. Good evening, Lisa. Hope you're having a lovely day. Wonderful silent seat, sitting in a deep meditation just now. Such a profound thing to be able to breathe room in today's overly crammed up and busy digital age. Nice, thanks Thomas. Hi Julia, oh, lots of love to you. Hi Lisa, lovely to see you tonight. Can you please talk about being able to discern arrogance from power or worthiness? I think it's really complicated, and I think that there has to be a deep understanding of what you want. Discern arrogance from power. It's very difficult though, because when does it become arrogant? When does it become an attempt to defend an illusion, to defend something that's not true? I think it comes I think the arrogance comes when there's a feeling of hatred in your actions, even if that hatred's really small. And that hatred comes from this seed that you're a victim to life and that life owes you. And then this arrogance comes where you feel like life owes you something, Whereas when I think your power and your worthiness is more in line, it's a sense of giving, of love. Even if it feels very powerful, it's like a different sensation of taking and snatching and believing that life owes you something. I don't know if that's helpful. It's a hard question. The volume is very low. It is. Hello? Oh, sorry about that. I don't know how it's possible to be very low because I can see it on my... Sometimes if that's happening, I would suggest moving browsers, because I'm not sure if it is that my volume's very low, because on my monitor it says that it's just right. Let me have a listen. Let me listen. Yeah, I think it is quite low. I think it's because I'm speaking very softly. And with this thing, you have to speak more louder. Thanks for telling me that, David. Yeah, I think it's to do with the level of my voice. I think I was in a very mood like this. So I've actually put it up higher than it's meant to go. It means if I say something really loud now, your ears are all going to pop out, but that's the way it is. So thanks for saying something. Who was that said? David. I can't tell when these things aren't working properly. Hi Andrew. Hi Lisa. Interesting topic for me to hear, as I just spent the past months with my mother as she died of cancer. My sister and I took care of her in our family home where we were raised. She died on February the 20th. Sitting with her in those final days was an experience I'll never forget. It was often like sitting next to someone vast and still and quiet and peaceful. I almost missed the ease with which I could just drop into that space in this time. What puzzles me now is that while I often feel sad and tears come, I cannot connect what I feel with the words often associated with death, such as grief and mourning. I wonder if I'm cutting off feelings. I have done this in the past, but then I also wonder if I'm just making a difficulty where there is none. Thanks for any insight that you have. Yeah, grief is a funny thing. I think it depends as to where your perspective is. Because grief, like from my experience of people that have died before, if I live in the same house with them and I'm seeing them every day, then when they die, there's a bigger sense that something's missing. And then when I'm seeing them less regularly, there's less of a sense of that. I don't know if that's what... and there's more of a sense of missing them, or what I would associate as grief when you live with someone and when they're suddenly absent and you're used to speaking with them and sharing with them, and so it's hard to tell what your experience is. I don't know what your experience is. It depends on where you are. If you've caught up in a lot of feelings of guilt or regret or undone stories, then maybe you would experience a big sense of grief. Because I can imagine grief can be associated with things that you haven't done. But I don't know, everybody's interpretation of grief is different. Things you haven't done, things they didn't do, you'd like them to do. But if you don't have that, then it would be more, I presume the grief would be based around their actual absence in the moment. It's not so much based on what you should or shouldn't have done or what you were going to do. So it depends how your body is, like what your body has in it. None of that's wrong, it's just what your body has in it and needs to express. None of it's unenlightened, it's just that the body needs to express certain stories or odd thoughts or patterns that need to come out. Like if there were undone stories with that person, which totally might not be your fault, you might have tried to finish the stories, but if they're not finished, then your body is most probably going to feel a grief at not being able to finish those stories. Like if you lost someone suddenly, maybe. But I always get nervous replying to questions that are very directly about yourself. Like when someone directly asks, is this what's happening in me or this what's happening in me? Because I can't tell what's happening in you from these written words on the screen, and I don't want to put any ideas in your head. I want you to be able to explore the situation and be open to what's occurring in you. Sometimes when we have certain personality types, I know that I can have this tendency, especially around material things or business, is that somebody else says something and I easily adapt that view because I really don't know what the best decision is in business, and maybe it'd be better if I sat by myself and reflected more on my feelings towards it. So that's the same with what I'm trying to say with you, with your feelings, is I don't like to be too pushy on my opinion when somebody comes with their wanting to know what their experience is, because really you have to explore your own experience. And anything that I or any other speaker or anything that you read or watch can only be a way to help you explore your own experience more. I don't even like to define too much what grief is to me, because grief to you will be something different. I said after my awakening that I didn't feel the sensation of gratitude anymore. And I hear lots of people feeling, or a few people that have come up to me and said they feel bad for feeling gratitude because they think that I was saying it was unenlightened or that they shouldn't feel gratitude. And it was completely not what I was feeling. And I don't know how many years they went around feeling like they shouldn't experience gratitude. Gratitude's a beautiful feeling. But it was just something that stopped in me. And I might even have a totally different interpretation of what gratitude is to them. But thanks for your question. But hopefully stuff that I said helped you explore your feelings more. Hi, Bia. Dear Lisa, listening to your last talk with that lady who you gave advice to on talking about non-duality in her area, I would like to hear about your experience about something. My boyfriend and I have been together for 6 years. We haven't been living a spiritual life at all. However, a year ago, I have experienced my first awakening and have fallen in love with it immediately. I could not talk to my partner about it, but the change in me was obvious to him. The love towards life, God, became greater than anything I could put into words, and when he asks me questions, I can't express it in words, and this makes him very uncomfortable, angry. And because I'm 27, he's 42, he also thinks I can't possibly be wise enough to be awakened. He just has a great ignorance in him, what is blocking the possibility of seeing the truth and love of life. I was wondering if you have anything to say about this. I think that relationships are immensely complicated, and sometimes arguments or disagreements aren't what is said on the surface, but they go much deeper. And so for me to possibly comment again is impossible, maybe even irresponsible. I think it's not as simple as me giving my opinion on that, because I think that we're all very complicated beings, and these very complicated beings come to communicate and live together and live a life together. And I think that's full of many complexities, and there's multiple things that could be happening between you guys, and it would be impossible for me to have an accurate opinion on that. Yeah, unless I got to know you and your boyfriend, I think it would be hard. It's a nice idea though, like to write it out and to see if I could have any opinion. And the reason that I like, or I'm less likely, like obviously I have opinions that come up, and I could talk endlessly on these subjects of relationships. When you directly ask me about your own relationship, or when you directly ask me about your own experience, I don't want to be too pushy, because I know that you have to find your own way. You know, you can learn things from myths, from stories, from people that speak about life, from books, but ultimately you have to find your own route. That's the beauty of this life, that's the chaos of this life, and that's the challenge of this life. And maybe I say this more from my experience, says but my experience was, when I was younger, even if I'd had awakenings, was to want to take other people's opinion of reality more than my own opinion of something, because I was never taught to trust my feelings and my opinions on something. I was taught to be told something and then take that on as a belief structure, rather than I wasn't taught to listen to an opinion, listen to what somebody says, and then to see how that made me feel, and then to use it or not use it. And as I got older and wiser, and there's still something I do, it's like realizing that I have to, like always realizing that I have to come to my own opinion. And so say it was my house now, I'm renovating my house. At the end of the day, I have to make the decisions about the wood or the walls. I listen to the builder, I listen to what people tell me. That's wise to listen, not to be arrogant. I listen very carefully to what they say, but at the end of the day, it's my opinion as to what works in that house, because I've got to be the one that lives with that. If I were to listen solely to the builder, or solely to a friend, or solely to someone else's opinion, what do you think I would do to them if afterwards I wasn't happier with it? I would blame them. This is how we end up with a society of victims, which I think that we do have a society of victims, and the victim mentality is a very dangerous mentality. It's almost like the separate self and the victim mentality are so close together. It's like we're grown up in this society, we're pushed on all these belief systems and these ideas, and then we kind of blame this system for giving us all these beliefs and ideas, but we're not even really conscious of that. We're kind of like blaming the adult, blaming the parent. Like if you listen to a lot of people, a lot of their conversation is moaning about a lot of things, feeling victimized by a lot of things, and that mentality seems to arise from people staying in a child mentality, like people taking on board what other people say, taking on board what other people feel, taking on board other people's ideas, and then when it doesn't go the way they feel it should go or the way they want it to go, they then blame those people. So say if you listen to somebody's idea about what they feel happened in a situation, if you don't follow what you feel happened, if you don't begin to learn more and more what your body feels, then your body will know it and you'll begrudge that person slightly. You'll build up a barrier, an energetic barrier to that person over time. You'll become more and more distant from that person. And it's not because that person did wrong, because more than likely that person isn't conscious of what they think and feel. But by believing their version of reality, you've kind of given up on yourself. But it's scary to be that strong, right? You're afraid, people are afraid they'll be arrogant or hateful, but it comes with love. You know it by love. And you have to, on the human level, get to know yourself more and more. Be strong in that. Something I'm learning more as I speak and interact with people. So that's partly why I'm maybe careful when I get asked very personal questions, because the biggest advice I can give to you is to find your flow and bow down to that, because that is the divine. It's like the divine is moving our bodies, and then this separate energy fights that and tries to control life. The separate person is trying to hold on to life, to control life, to make life a certain way. And as that separate person relaxes, then and as that separate person even disappears, then the body more and more goes back to its natural flow, its natural way of being. And that would be my teaching if I were to teach you anything. And so what you do is you've always got to find out what your lies are in the separate self level. Like what you're lying about, what you're trying to cover up, what you're trying to avoid, and see that for what it is. And come back to this rawness of being what you are. This invisibility. Like the child. You know how like the child is expressing itself so innocently. Might not always be nice expression. It might be angry, it might be sad, it might be happy, it might be joyful. But it's expressing itself innocently. It's not that it trusts itself, it just is itself. And you can't convince a baby that it's wrong or got a bad idea or shouldn't be upset. You can't convince Khaleesi of that either. I don't know if that made sense. It's hard to express things sometimes. Hi Lisa, how do you manage being sensitive but not taking someone else's negative toxic energy? I think it's inevitable that you're going to take on other people's energies if you're a sensitive person. And so I would rephrase the question as what is the best way to handle taking on someone else's energy? And the best way is to love it, totally accept it, and then it will pass quicker. Hey Lisa, it's good volume for me. Thanks. Hi, Lisa, your soft voice radiates a special peace today, but honestly, I think it all comes from your heart. Hi, Lisa. Do you have some kind of devotional relationship with the sacred? Do you pray? What is faith? Thank you. To me, the sacred is everything. So your devotion, your devotion is a surrendering to that. It's surrendering to the infinite in everything, the infinite in the limitations. And that to me is praying, that to me is devotion, that to me is faith. Can you please elaborate on what you said about death being seen as love? How does it sink in, that shift, if it's currently seen as a monster still? I don't know how that sinks in. For me, I know what death is from my awakening experiences. I just know. Just like I know that Khaleesi's free. It's just known. I just know that death isn't this evil monster. It's a melting back in. It can be painful. But the most painful part about death is the resistance to it, as seeing it as a monster, as being terrified of it. On the physical level, the body dies all by itself. You don't have to do anything to do it. Death will come when it's ready, and it will take the body. Even if it is painful, that's the opposite part of the pleasurable part of life. But death will do it all by itself. We sometimes think of death as this big struggle that we have to try to avoid, but it will do everything. It's like you can just completely surrender up to death. It will, when the time is right, and transform that body. Just like the rain comes, just like the tree grows, just like the sun shines. Hi Chris. Hi Lisa. Lovely to see you. Please can you say about the joy of this very moment? I feel your love right now when I watch you. I can feel it during the day, but then it suddenly goes away. I mean the very raw feeling of love in every moment. My mind doesn't like it, I guess. And thanks. Beauty, love and respect and gratitude. It's just making sure that your mind is associating what love is correctly. Love isn't that feeling that you get. Love is that empty looking and the sense of being. The feeling of love comes and goes, And that feeling of love often comes when you're in line, when there is that recognition of that emptiness and that I am. But it's something that comes and goes. It doesn't have to be there. So it's making sure that your mind is really clear that who you truly are is that emptiness. And it's not associating that emptiness with the feeling of love. Because if it associates that emptiness with the feeling of love, then it will keep seeking to try to maintain that love, which is impossible. It's like trying to maintain any form in this life. Hi, Thomas. Another reason why there should be a non-duality hotline. In the earnest, though, I do think it would be wise decision to find potential mate partners on a deeper level and having more common ground after awakening, simply for the fact you are more aligned toward your true nature. At this point, you can more easily take ownership of your actions and act in accordance to your truth. Yeah, but you can't tell that someone, Thomas. They have to see that for themselves. Because if you tell them that, then they go and leave their partner and then they regret it, and it's like they're not being fully adult. They have to begin to see that that's what they want, that that's what their body wants, and they can feel it. If they get really in tune with their body, they'll feel what their body wants. I'm just 20 and started practicing being aware. I started to disassociate with thoughts which reduced what I speak or do so much that my mum scolds me nowadays because I'm too passive. Can you talk about this? I'm as if a deviant part of my family now, not running by my parents' rules. You can imagine the situation. Now I don't follow the religion they do. I do nothing. I just be. Yeah. Just become more and more aware of your feelings and your thoughts on the human level. And then seeing simultaneously that you aren't any of that. So it's seeing that you are that I am and that nothingness, that emptiness. And then just become more aware of how your body's feeling and responding in certain moments. The more you become aware of what your body is saying, the more you'll know what it wants and the direction it wants to go. And that's the emptiness, the divine speaking. The way the divine speaks is it moves the body. It pulls the hand up, it puts in thoughts. And then there's this person that interprets it and tries to fight that. So see what the body wants. Really come to understand the body, because that's the place where the emptiness and the everything meets. Thanks, Anelia. Okay, thanks guys. Lots of love to you. I don't think there will be a stream this Sunday, so please check my website just to make sure if I am going to stream or not. Lots of love. Bye.